But let's not forget how this New York investigation got started in the first place. It all started with a guy named Michael Cohen. The investigation that led to this point started with an investigation into payments during the 2016 campaign that were designed to keep two women from talking publicly about their alleged affairs with candidate Trump. Those payments were campaign finance felonies, and the president's lawyer, Michael Cohen, went to prison for them. The payments that Cohen made to those women, however, were reimbursed by the president's business as if they were payments to Cohen for legal services. Now, depending on how exactly that was done, that could be a crime related to keeping fraudulent business records. If those fake legal expenses were deducted on the firm's taxes, that could also be tax fraud. Cohen then testified to Congress, you'll remember that, and he provided some documentation attesting to what he described as a long-running scheme by the former president to defraud insurance companies, banks, and tax authorities by radically changing the valuation of his various properties to get better loans or better tax deals. And ever since the Manhattan DA opened his investigation into all of this, Michael Cohen has been cooperating, even meeting with investigators from prison. And today, now that Cy Vance has all the president's financial records, now that he has this hard-hitting mob prosecutor going through those records and figuring out what incriminating evidence there might be, today, New York prosecutors brought Michael Cohen in for his 8th interview. And no more Zoom this time. They asked him to come in person. And there are signs that those prosecutors are working on getting other Trump insiders to cooperate with their investigation as well. In particular, signs point to the Trump Organization's longtime chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg. The New York Times and then the Washington Post reporting this month that prosecutors appear to be putting pressure on Weisselberg by scrutinizing his children. One son who also works at the Trump Organization, and another who works for a company that has loaned money to Trump's company. Now, to be clear, neither Alan Weisselberg nor his sons have been accused of any wrongdoing, but there are reasons to believe that if the Trump Organization is in legal trouble, the Weisselberg family could be caught up in it. Now, as far as we know, Alan Weisselberg and his sons are not cooperating with prosecutors, but the ex-wife of one of his sons is. And NBC's Tom Winter sat down with Jennifer Weisselberg for an exclusive interview today, asking her about her former father-in-law.
What do you think he could tell investigators?
Everything they would ask.
Do you think he could be the ultimate tour guide into the Trump orbit?
Yes.
Her ex-husband, Barry, managing Trump's ice rinks in New York's Central Park. And she believed that in 2004, Trump and Melania gave them a big wedding gift, their own apartment overlooking the park. So you thought that the apartment you were living in was a gift? This is a congratulations?
I wrote them a thank you note.
And all along, it was just a corporate Trump Organization apartment?
I didn't understand these things. I was a ballet dancer. Come on.
In reality, Trump didn't give them the apartment. He let them live there rent-free, paying only for utilities, an arrangement that could raise legal and tax questions about how the Weisselbergs and the Trump Organization accounted for it. When the arrangement was reported last fall, it caught the attention of Manhattan District Attorney Cy Vance's office. How many times have you specifically talked with the Manhattan District Attorney's office?
Multiple times.
Okay.
And it's not over.
It's not over. The former daughter-in-law of the Trump Organization's longtime chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg, she is cooperating with New York prosecutors. Michael Cohen worked with Alan Weisselberg at the Trump Organization for years. He said it wasn't just Donald Trump who authorized the hush money payments for which Cohen went to prison. It was Alan Weisselberg, too. The New Yorker's Jane Mayer reports that Cohen, quote, believes that if prosecutors threaten Weisselberg or his family with indictment, as they did with Cohen himself, he will cooperate. He's not going to let his boys go to prison, Cohen told me, and I don't think he wants to spend his golden years in a correctional institute either. Today, Cohen was with the Manhattan DA for his 8th interview. Wouldn't you have liked to be a fly on the wall for that? Joining me now, President Trump's former personal lawyer and star witness in Cy Vance's ongoing criminal investigation into the former president, Michael Cohen. He is the author of Disloyal, a memoir, the true story of the former personal attorney to President Donald J. Trump. He currently hosts the Mea Culpa podcast. Mr. Cohen, thank you for joining us tonight.
Ali, welcome. Well, welcome to the Rachel Maddow Show.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I wasn't a fly on the wall, but if I were, I know you have arrangements with the Manhattan DA about things you can talk about publicly and things you can't. What part can you tell me about what went down today?
So, in fact, I do not have any arrangement with anybody. I've asked for nothing. They have offered nothing other than the fact that whatever information that they seek, if I'm capable of providing that information to them, then I do. But I'm under no gag orders from them. However, I also believe that the right thing to do is not to provide the specific information as it involves the investigation, because I don't want to harm their investigation, nor do I want to see the Trump organization, Mr. Trump, or Alan Weisselberg, aka Mr. Whistleberg. I don't want to see them obtain a benefit from the information that they would glean from this television show.
Let me ask you about Alan Weisselberg. You heard his former daughter-in-law telling Tom Winter that he could be the ultimate tour guide through the system. And, of course, a lot of people thought you'd be the ultimate tour guide. Tell me about Weisselberg and what he may have known that you already know.
Right. So Alan Weisselberg is the chief financial officer of the Trump organization. He is by far the longest serving and acting executive at the Trump organization. Basically, Fred Trump told Donald to take Alan Weisselberg, really because Fred didn't trust Donald with the money that he was loaning him in order to get into business. And Alan then ultimately, who was the bookkeeper, became the CFO and, as I said, the longest serving executive at the organization. Now, I don't know if I would say that Alan is the roadmap to the investigation. Truthfully, whatever they have, they have. Would it be better to have the accountant? Always, considering there was not a single dollar in and not a single dollar out of that company that did not cross through Alan Weisselberg's desk. So in regard to the financial crimes that are being discussed right now in the investigation, many of which you have seen at my open testimony before the House Oversight Committee, it would certainly be helpful for Alan Weisselberg's testimony, but it is not fatal to their investigation. Remember, they just obtained more than 1 million pages of documents, 8 years worth of Mr. Trump's and the Trump organization's tax returns. That's the real roadmap there. And many people, including the companies that they brought in, are able to decipher it, myself included. You don't need to charge him on 20 issues. All you need is one. And believe me, they have more than one. So my recommendation for Alan, as I had stated to Jane Mayer, unless you want to spend some time in a camp like I did, and you want to put your boys at risk, I'm pretty sure that he'll be providing information to the district attorney. And look, when you have somebody like Mark Pomerantz, who is a seasoned veteran when it comes to this type of litigation, and he's been on both sides of the fence. He's been a tough-nosed prosecutor, and he's been a hard-nosed defender. He knows the game better than anybody, and I can't imagine who they're going to bring in order to challenge his capabilities.
So Pomerantz knows the game better than anyone. You know what was going on in the Trump administration, the Trump organization better than anyone, you and Alan Weisselberg. Do you have confidence that Pomerantz has the information that he needs and a good understanding of what this takes? Because it does sound like they've got more than 1 million pages of documents. You said they have what they have. Do you think they have what they need and that Pomerantz knows what to do with it?
Oh, I'm certain about that. You know, as I've always said, paper doesn't lie. Individuals do. So no matter what Donald Trump is going to try to claim, the pages don't lie. You also have Mazur. You have the accounting firm that was doing it. Now, again, does it make the chain of information easier to understand when you have all of the individuals that participated, right? So, for example, you brought up the Stormy Daniels payment. As I made crystal clear during my statement prior to incarceration before Judge William H. Pauley, which sadly went mostly ignored. One of the things that I said is that I did this at the direction of and for the benefit of Donald J. Trump. But what I also included is the fact that Alan Weisselberg was a party to my conversations with Mr. Trump, hence the recording that was ultimately put out on CNN when Rudy Giuliani claimed certain things that were, of course, not true. I mean, what do you expect? It's Rudy. So Alan Weisselberg was a party to that. The more people that, if you can get everybody that was involved, it's certainly better, but it's not the end all be all. You know, one of the things, Ali, also, a lot of people on social media, they reach out to me and say, oh, if you have the goods, you know, drop it, give it, spill it. I know there are a lot of people out there, especially that watch this show and watch you, that are interested in me sitting here and spilling all of the information. And please understand, when I say that, I can't do that, or I can't do it, I just choose not to, simply because it doesn't help the district attorney, and it doesn't help the investigation in order to hold those people responsible for their own dirty deeds. And that's one of the reasons why I have now spent 8 different sessions going back over a year and a half, closer to 2 years, when the district attorney first came to Otisville to interview me. After 8 times, you could rest assured they're not asking me once again to come in for a 9th time simply because they find me funny or because they just have nothing to do. Each and every time, they're drilling down more and more and more. And ultimately,
so why did you need to go in person this time?
You're going to start to see very soon. Yeah, you're going to see very soon, in my opinion, indictments start flying.
So why did you need to go in person this time? What was different?
Well, like I said, there's over 1 million documents, and rest assured, there's one thing I can tell you about Cy Vance and Mark Pomerantz and the entire district attorney team. They are well organized, they are disciplined, they are methodical in their questioning and their documentation. I mean, there was more paper there, all tabulated in 3-ring books, itemized for questions that they wanted to pose by me. There was more than you would possibly even imagine. It was like a paper vault of information. And, you know, there's a lot of documentation. And look, right now I'm on home confinement, so I certainly have a lot of free time to head downtown, you know, to sit with them. And like I said, one of the reasons that I'm doing this is I will not be the villain of Donald Trump's story. They need to all be held responsible for their own dirty deeds. I don't want to be responsible for their actions.
Are you said you have no arrangement with anybody. Might we see you at a trial, or might you be testifying before a grand jury at some point?
Well, look, I have not been asked at this point in time. However, one would have to imagine that by the time I finish meeting with them, we will definitely be into the double digits. So do I anticipate being called as a witness? The answer is most probably yes. If I'm asked, then I will do it simply because of my respect for Mr. Vance, as well as for Mr. Pomerantz, and for the investigation that they are now conducting. So the answer is, if I'm asked, I will do it. No different than when I was asked to appear before the Congress, whether it was the House Oversight or the Senate Select Committees, all of them, the House Judiciary. If they asked me to come in, I was coming in. I don't need to be forced in with a subpoena. All they need to do is ask.
Michael, thank you for taking time to join us today. We appreciate it. President Trump's former personal lawyer and star witness in Cy Vance's ongoing criminal investigation into former President Donald Trump, Michael Cohen. He's the author of Disloyal, a memoir, the true story of the former personal attorney to President Donald J. Trump, and he's the host of the Mea Culpa podcast. All right, much